Wow, man, I got some really seriously weird, bizarre, and kind of underrated horror films for this week that I watched. So you're definitely going to want to get a pen and write this one down. What's up, guys? And welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing my weekly watch list with some very weird, bizarre, and what I think are pretty underrated horror films. Now, underrated horror films, of course, are never going to be 10s out of 10s, but these are going to be those specific sort of ideas that maybe exist between middle of the road to 7.5 and are pretty decent ideas, maybe don't have the funds to execute it all that well, but there's something there that kind of makes you interested. Maybe one of you will find one of these films and think it's the best thing you've ever seen. I personally really enjoyed them and had a good time watching them, so I don't think they're terrible to watch or anything, but you know, to each their own. But as always, I'll put links down below for all of the physical media that you can get for any of these movies. One of these movies you cannot pick up on physical media, and it is very hard to find online, and I don't even think it's been put out here in America yet, but I'll tell you about that later. Get your pen out and let's get into 5 weird, bizarre, underrated horror films right now.
Hey, are you okay?
First up, we have There Are Monsters from 2013. This was a movie that was directed by and written by Jay Dahl, who has done some other work that is not really popular, not really famous, but I think did a really good job in this film. This is a movie that is sort of a end of the world scenario, a body snatchers sort of vibing film where there are monsters that are disguised as humans and are slowly taking over the world, and a film crew of a bunch of student filmmakers are doing a sort of project where they're filming everything around them and suddenly start to realize that there's something more going on around them than they even thought their nightmares could make up. They start to capture the terrifying transformations of society through the cameras while on this road trip, and things get pretty dark. Now, I personally was like interested in this kind of concept because this is my bread and butter. I love movies like The Body Snatchers, and I love that element of, hey, should I trust this person? Who are you actually? The Thing did it, Body Snatchers did it, Invaders from Mars did it. There's just so many wonderful films that have used that concept because, you know, the real fear is each other, right? Because we don't know who someone really is, and somebody could just slip right on into our bodies, and who knows then. But yeah, this movie is considered a found footage film, although I don't think it truly is, because there are moments where the camera's over and behind the shoulder and the head while the person's by themselves in a car, and you can see the window and whatever's in front of that window and the head. So I don't know why they call it a found footage, but just understand it feels like a found footage film. I just don't want people to kill me in the comment section and say this isn't. Me personally, I'm a little more open to it because I like stories. Ideas that they used in this film to make the creatures come to life were really cool. I mean, look at this.
Do you really think this is the end?
I happened to see that on Facebook, and I was like, yeah, I'm watching that on this week's watch list. And I did, and I came away with a pretty decent, fairly vibey movie that has a really bad tendency to do extreme close-ups. It's a little annoying to watch while you watch this movie, but fortunately, the story is interesting enough. Even if the acting isn't the best, some of the stuff that happens in this film is actually kind of unsettling and creepy, and I actually could see another movie of this any day. I would love to watch it. I would give this movie probably about a 6.5 out of 10. It may be lower for a lot of other people and think it's just junk, but just understand this is a small budget film doing really great ideas and doing different stuff than I've seen in a movie before. So give it a chance. If you want to watch it, it's only up on YouTube, and you can pick up a copy on DVD from another region. So you have to have a region-free DVD player in order to watch it. But I'll put a link down below for that. Just look on There Are Monsters 2013 on YouTube, and you'll find a copy.
It feeds on your most hidden desires.
Up next, we have Demonoid, which Demonoid was a movie that it's from 1981. It's a movie that Tarantino was talking about in some sort of interview, and I kind of heard it and I watched it, and he made it sound so cool, and I wanted to see this movie because I was like, and I've been wanting to watch it anyway. I think I started it a while ago on Prime, but never got to finishing it. Now, this movie is about a man and a wife who work together to try to get silver from a mine in Mexico, and they're trying to convince the Mexicans, the local village, to basically dig in this mine, but they won't because they've found some dead bodies and stuff that looks very ritualistic. They find a 300-year-old severed hand that's driven by a demon. And of course, you know, the Mexican population's like, not gonna touch it. And bad things happen when they take the hand home in the sarcophagus that it comes in, and it comes to life. Now, this is directed by Alfredo Zacharias, who actually did a horror movie called Bees. But man, what a weird story this is. Not only does the hand come back to life and you see it, you know, like it disconnected running around and grabbing people, but as soon as you touch it, it actually grabs onto you and possesses you. And so the idea in this movie is that there's two versions of you, the good side and the bad side. And the left hand is the devil's hand and the right hand is God's hand. So guess which hand the hand grabs onto and possesses you with? You get the picture. So this thing's hopping around from people to people, police officers, doctors, everybody. You know, they can die and come back to life. There's, you know, a need to want to cut the hand off and give it to the next person for some reason. But it's just all over the place. And there's actually two versions. This was also called Macabre, but they cut out all the gore and all the fun parts. But yeah, I maybe tone your expectations down on this one a little bit. It is very 70s. There is enough weird, stupid, kind of wild, so bad it's good moments in the film to kind of push you along that it makes it kind of a fun watch. I would say this one's about a 6 out of 10. I wasn't like over the moon about it, and it is a fun watch to see these things happen, but overall, it was kind of boring and a little slow pace, but I still think it's underrated, and I think people should watch it because you may vary on that score. But yeah, if you want to watch Demonoid, you can actually watch it on Roku, Vudu, and Plex for free, or you can pick up a Blu-ray copy at Vinegar Syndrome, or I have a link down below for Amazon if you want to add it to your wish list and buy it.
We watch it.
Up next, we have Don't Be Afraid of the Dark from 1973. Now, this is a movie that was actually remade many years later in like 2013 or something like that. But this one's the original one. It has some really awesome sort of synthy scores in it and some really weird, kind of darker moments than what I remember from the remake. Essentially, it's about a young couple that inherit a house, an old mansion. You've heard this story before. And it's inhabited by small little demon-like creatures that are determined to kill the wife and make one of their own. Yeah, it's a little bit darker and it has some more style, I think, than the remake. And I actually really like this movie in a lot of ways because it just feels weird. This is by director John Newland, who did like 93 episodes of One Step Beyond, which was a pretty big TV series that they brought back. But the creatures in this, they look really weird. They're small. They have hairy arms and legs and bodies like they're wearing a suit, and their face looks like a peach pit, and the mask and the lips don't move. They just kind of, their mouths kind of, it's weird. But they talk and whisper at her all the time. So when they're running around the house causing mayhem and like, you know, trying to scare her, the green lights come on and all of a sudden they're there doing something, and you know that's when they're about to do something bad. But I actually really liked it. It kind of is spooky in some weird way, and I love the character in the movie because she's playing part scared and she's also kind of playing like taking command of what's going on. But of course, nobody believes her. Her husband just got a new job and he's leaving town all the time, so she's home by herself. Like I said, you've heard the story, but so many movies have borrowed that plot. It's just crazy to me. Like, you know, mansion, husband, wife, husband leaves, gets new promotion, she goes crazy, he loses promotion, you know, the whole story. But I actually really like this. I thought this was like a 6.5 out of 10, maybe even a 7 out of 10 for 1970s feature. I thought this was pretty cool. You can rent it for $3.99, or you can buy it on Blu-ray, which there is no Blu-ray copy online for viewing, by the way, so it's only in standard definition to rent, but you can pick it up on Blu-ray down below. I put a link for you to wish list it to your own wish list.
All my enemies are dead.
Up next, we have Kuso, which I ended up picking up from Vinegar Syndrome. Actually, I got it on Amazon because it was like a couple bucks cheaper for some reason. But yeah, I got the Kuso movie because Ash is coming out. Flying Lotus, the Flying Lotus, does the movie Kuso. And he's going to be doing the movie Ash coming out March 21st, which looks to be like one of the coolest, most cosmic horror sci-fi films of the year. It looks amazing. I'm super excited to see. Kuso, vaguely, is just a hodgepodge of different ideas and concepts thrown into a movie. But online it says, events unfold after a devastating earthquake in Los Angeles. Pretty innocuous. But there's like 4 or 5 stories kind of going on at the same time in this movie. It's kind of like an anthology, but also not, because the whole movie is coming in and out of each of these stories and coming back to each and every one of these stories while you're watching the entire film play out. There's a little boy whose mom is like railed by the local guys all the time, and he goes out on adventures. He's getting picked on in school and finds like a weird mushroom with a tongue in it, and he poops on the ground and feeds it. By the way, there's a lot of poop fetish in this movie.
Pudding?
No, thank you, sir.
There's just a lot of really gross, body horrific, nasty stuff going on in this film. Whether it's the language, the dialogue, or, you know, just what you see on the screen, it's pretty gross. But it's unlike anything I've ever seen, so, you know, it's hard to recommend this one, but there are a lot of cast in the film that, you know, I just don't know how he's friends with these people, but I guess he's just so bizarre that they all kind of like wanted to sign up to do this movie with him. It took him 3 years, and he says he wanted to do something like Ren and Stimpy. So if you can imagine, it's kind of like that. Some of the people that show up in the movie, George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars, just George Clinton's in it. He plays a doctor. The Buttress, who is this girl who is being haunted by these 2 trans-dimensional sort of Yo Gabba Gabba creatures. You got Bus Driver, who pretty much does like one of his own tracks in here. Bus Driver is a rapper. He used to be more popular in the early 2000s. A lot of his work I really enjoy. He does some very weird rapping stuff. Also, we have Screamer Claus, who is also sort of a digital arts kind of guy, who also is a musician. And so he's in this film. But yeah, this is bizarre. I don't know how to tell you guys about it. It's just disgusting, gross out moments after gross out moments throughout the whole film, sexually motivated in a lot of ways, and just really disgusting. But yeah, I don't know what to score this one. I'm just gonna say I've never seen anything like it, and I had to add it to my collection. If you want to pick it up, you can pick it up on Blu-ray here. If you're gonna get it, I would just get it. Otherwise, you can watch it on Shudder, AMC Plus, and rent it for $3.99. And then finally, last but not least, I got to check out a film that was suggested to me by Sinister Cinema Reviews. Shout out, Jason over there has watched everything. But he told me about a movie called The Train of Death from 2024 that he watched last year. He had it on his like extended list for the favorites of the year, and I was like, man, I gotta see this movie. So I went online to try to look for a copy on YouTube and all this other place, and I found a Daily Motion link with the movie in it. Apparently, this movie has not released in America, but it's been out in Indonesia for however long, and I really wanted to rent it, but I couldn't find a copy, so I just took the plunge, watched it on Daily Motion with its ads on. Somebody needs to distribute it because this movie ain't too bad. Now, this is a movie that is about a train rail that has been put in, and it is been put through a forest that is pretty much owned and operated by some pretty heinous demons. And when I say owned and operated, they've been there for hundreds and thousands of years. And nobody messes with the mountain because I ain't gonna mess with no demons. And you really shouldn't, because this train decided to do it anyway. And on the inaugural day of this train's existence, they take it through the mountains. And after going through one of the tunnels, last cart is gone on the train. And the people on it, well, they've been dispatched in some of the most gruesome, bloody ways, and it is done in a Evil Dead-esque Train to Busan Indonesian film way. Taper your expectations back. It's not as good as either of those films, but it's got some really promising stuff in it. There are some moments that it kind of meanders a little bit, and I really didn't get into the vibe necessarily. The demons, they're just floating around, exploding people. There is just a ton of stuff going on in this movie. And of course, there's more than one tunnel, so everybody has to filter up to the front of the train as they start to figure out one train cart at a time is disappearing. Opens up an entire story as to why this is happening. There's a lot of like characters that you're going to meet that meet their demise, some of which I was like, oh shit, you're just gonna kill that person off? Oh my God. And man, do they get killed brutally. Now, I will say there is a lot of CGI in here, but they do also use practical effects. But for some of the more gruesome stuff, yeah, they use a lot of like CGI blood mixed with the practical effects. I personally was okay with it, but it's noticeable. Obviously would have been better entirely practical. They made it work, and this doesn't look like a shitty indie kind of no budget film. There's some things that happen in this movie that by the end of the film, I was actually rooting for. In the beginning, I was kind of, this looks a little silly. That's a little funky. But by the end, I really didn't care, and I just wanted to see more and more of the gore. This is a movie that is directed by Rizal Mantovani, who is, actually been doing films for a very long time. Now, I kind of wavered on a like 6.5 or 7 by the end of the movie. I wasn't really sure where I ended up because there is some flaws in this movie, but I think you can overlook it. But I personally think this is about a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. I lean towards a 7. Obviously, there are some things that I think could have been done better. It's not a perfect film. It's definitely worth underrated potential. If you haven't seen it, like I said, you can only watch it on Dailymotion. I would just look up The Train of Death 2024 and you should find a copy on there. Hopefully, if it does come out, I will let you guys know because I really hope it does get an American release. I would like to pick it up. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's everything for this week's watch list. I hope there were enough bizarre, weird, and underrated films that you might want to check out for yourself. If you can't watch them all, pick the ones that you like the most. I know some of you guys are like, man, my list is getting so big. I want to see all of these. Sometimes you have to just kind of kill your darlings and then come back to them at a later time and just watch the ones that really kind of resonate with you the most. That's kind of the point with this. This is a good set of underrated films that you should check out. If any of them resonate with you, pick that one first and then, let me know what you think. Come back to this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below because I would love to hear if you enjoyed those movies. Thanks for coming by and we'll see you next time. But as always, long live the void.